Rex Miller is the author of The Healthy Workplace Nudge, which I've read, Humanizing the Education Machine and Change Your Space, Change Your Culture. He's a speaker and consultant, and he does very many things. I feel like I can't. Do him justice with the list. But I will tell you that how I got introduced to Rex was really a training about how to work in high performance teams. So, with that, you have to understand team dynamic. You have to understand how to collaborate well. You have to understand empathy in order to engage in those things. So I think he's an awesome resource to tap into this discussion. So with that, welcome, Rex.
Thank you, Brittany.
Yes.
So
how are you doing?
You're doing back to back. How are you holding up?
I'm doing good. I have my tea over here. I have my smoothie. I have some water here on the side. I have to figure out how I'm going to regenerate myself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So on our side, life is good. March started out with 95% of all my engagements and clients canceling for 2020. So
Wow.
we reinvented, and it's been good. And what you see here with the studio is part of that pivot. And we're doing a lot of work with teams that, can't be face to face. And what it's showing is it's really exposing the misalignments that were already there, but now they're becoming even more exposed. So it's been an interesting time.
Yeah. So let's jump right into the question we've been asking everyone else. How do we create those empathetic environments, create empathy in this distant society?
That's good. And those who know the Strengths Finder or the Clifton Strengths, it's interesting. There's 34 of them. Empathy is number 34 for me. Harmony is 33. And so the joke in the household is, dad wants to care. He just doesn't. And so, and I think that kind of mindset also fits into the construction world and job sites. It's about getting it done. It's the get her done mentality and suck it up. But what we found, what we do is we begin all of our team sessions with a humanizing part. And we use a story template. And it was actually developed through our education work with a group called Journeyman Inc. And they work with at-risk kids. And they have a whole process. It's like a 4-year process where kids that come in who are really shut down or very angry, and the first thing to do is create a very safe way of telling their story. And what we found is that the first part in creating a high-performing team is to see everybody as an individual and see them in a human nature. So we have what Journeyman Inc. calls this low risk, high value story template. And everybody fills it out. It is high energy. People get to know each other. Sometimes they'll post, use painter's tape and post their stories. And that's the first one. The foundation of it is we use the Clifton Strengths. Some people use DISC or others, but it's understanding how you are wired, appreciating how others are wired. And just as an example, there's more opportunities for us to disconnect than to come together, and just natural wiring. There are 33,600,000 different combinations of the top 5 strengths in Strength Finder. And if you add life experience and all of that. So to me, the question isn't why are we having trouble communicating? The challenge or the interesting thing for me is how did the teams actually overcome all that? And then that comes to, and I've heard you having this discussion with some others, is that psychological safety. And Google says that's the number one criteria for a high-performing team. And also what they call hedonic balance. And hedonic balance is that no one monopolizes the conversation. So a good manager, some people are naturally quiet and will be reflective and taking in, some are naturally outgoing. But having a balance where all the voices are in is one sign of an effective meeting.
Hmm.
For those who know the Patrick Lencioni 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, we use that assessment. I'm currently on 2 teams now that are not getting along. So part of our job is to provide adult supervision for teams that can't get along and to teach everybody how to play well in the sandbox. So having these assessment tools, having people understand who they are at their best, that's that emotional intelligence piece we bring in through an evidence-based way. And some of the teams I've gone to said, one of them said, we don't believe in any of this fuzzy wuzzy horoscopy kumbaya psychobabble bullshit. We have to do a little bit of a magic trick. And the magic trick is say, okay, I don't know you, but let me take the profile and see if this is close. And so a few of those magic tricks, people buy in. Then they learn how to appreciate the difference in others. Then they learn where the trigger points are, the natural wiring. Then we begin to bridge the communication with common language. And then the beginning of, the first part of trust, it just doesn't happen. You have to have some common features, humanizing story, common understanding, language, beginning to know each other. Then you can begin to build the elements of how teams perform, how they perform at their best, mostly how they perform under pressure. So we take them through all these different kinds of exercises for how are we going to respond under pressure before they go out into the construction world.
Right.
And you have something. If you don't practice and rehearse it, doesn't matter what you know up here. It's only what you practice and rehearse.
Man, that sounds like a huge toolbox of different resources that you can pull from. But I hear common themes. I hear getting your personal story, getting a good understanding of that personally. I hear making sure that you can communicate that, making sure that you have an assessment tool to kind of at least start having these conversations, address the skeptics. Right? I've been hearing that throughout this entire conversation. And it seems like you've been pulling a lot of those parts and pieces together, which is awesome. I do want to call out because you have inspired me to get the Whoop.
Yay.
Yep. And I think you posted earlier this week how bad your sleep was. Mine has been bad since the time change. But here we are. I made sure I got an extra hour in before hosting this, just so that I got in the green, and I did. But I did want to ask, how are you personally? How are you personally recharging, showing up so that you can help to engage and facilitate these empathetic and high performing team discussions?
Yeah. So when all this hit, it took me about a month to just go from the disequilibrium. The very first thing I did is got a routine, a daily routine. And it starts out in the morning with quiet, reflective time. I've been reading Ryan Holiday's book, Stillness is the Key. I do some meditation, some Bible reading, and I do a lot of listening. Then I journal, just capture the key thoughts. I then manage my energy, not my time. So I take the first hour or so during the day doing the most valuable things that I can be doing with my head. It's either creative writing, proposal writing, whatever takes high cognitive load. And so I got that from Cal Newport's book. And then through the day, I take breaks. So my meetings are typically only 45 minutes with a 15-minute break in between. So that's been built in. So instead of an hour, one of the posts last week showed that doing this virtual stuff, instead of using 20 to 30% of your calories, so it's all blood flow to the brain. And so that blood flow keeps your brain healthy, and it consumes 20 to 30% of your calories. Doing this, it's 40 to 50%. So
Wow.
just being aware that, and some days I'll take a power nap, no more than 25 minutes. 4:30, I cut it. and I go out and I hit some tennis balls against a wall. And then we have what we call a digital shutdown. So at 8 o'clock, we either put our blue blocker glasses on or we shut down completely, no digital stimulation before bed to get that good quality sleep that the Whoop tells you need. Uh, Light dinner to help sleep. And I mean, it's scripted out because without the normal structure that we had, what I found in coaching is that a lot of people are having the challenge because they just haven't reestablished a rhythm. They haven't gotten their structure, and they don't realize that this environment is wearing on you. I mean, people are sitting longer than they were at work.
Yeah.
I'm at a stand-up work surface, so mine is sit to stand. So just being intentional about your brain, what it takes to have a healthy brain, your body, and having a little bit of a sense of humor about all of this.
We have to, man. I tell you. Oh man, I've been making sure to have my at least my weekly intake of comedy
You.
just to keep things light, man. But I will tell you, I appreciate you. I appreciate the value that you've been able to share. Again, you're another person we can go on a long podcast with, but this is just the beginning. This is not the end. We're doing collaboration now, a series, and we're going to be hosting these conversations every other week on Friday morning. So you're every one of my guests. You're more than welcome to jump in and onto our future conversations, and that includes you, Rex.